Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I want to talk about a different way to think about self-concept. And before I even get into the video, I want to be very clear that you don't have to think about self-concept this way in order to change your self-concept. But what I will say is that for me, learning how to approach self-concept in this way has not only tremendously helped me embody more of who I want to conceive myself to be, but it's also allowed me to always feel like I can go back to a position of power when it comes to selecting the realities and the identities that I want to be and experience. But just to be very clear, you don't have to think about self-concept this way or approach it this way in order to see results in physical reality or to believe that you are a certain way or a certain identity. All right. But with that being said, I want to talk about this different way of approaching self-concept. As we know, self-concept is how you conceive yourself to be. It's your identity, right? And there's so many different resources out there that talk about this, even non-spiritual ones or non-manifesting ones, right? We know that identity is very powerful because what you identify with is very much linked to how you're going to experience physical reality. And so there's a lot of focus on how to basically change your identity. And there's talk about how to approach identity change if you are not satisfied with how you're currently conceiving yourself to be. You've got, you could just do blind affirmations until you believe or start to see evidence of your new identity in physical reality. Some people approach it more, via hypnosis. Some people, what they'll do is they'll approach it with action change. So they'll identify who they are based off of the action that they're taking. And for the record, I've done all of these, or at least I've tried all of these, and they are effective and they do work. This is definitely not an argument against them not working. But the way that I now approach identity change is I basically categorize who I am into two categories. The first category is I am awareness, or as Neville Goddard puts it, or he explains it as I am, right? But essentially it's just I am awareness. I am not, my thoughts. I'm not my emotions. I'm not my physical reality. I'm not the people. I'm not what people tell me I am. I am awareness. That is the first category. The second category of identity that I associate with and the way that I see it is basically my reputation. Everything else other than my awareness, the way that I identify with all of the other things that I want to be is what I consider my reputation. So like, for example, under reputation, it can range from anything from qualities to things that you have and that you associate yourself as having or as the person who has these things. So for example, one type of identity would be like, I am a kind person. I am a loving person. I am a gentle person. I am an ambitious person. Qualities, right? Other types of identities or reputations could be like, I am a wealthy person. I am a person who makes a lot of money. I'm a person who runs a business. I am a person who works out. I am a person who has an attractive body. I am a wife. I am a girlfriend. I am a husband. I am a boyfriend. The range for reputation is unlimited for me because there are unlimited amounts of self-concepts out there. But the reason why I categorize my identity into two categories rather than just one category is because for me, my own self-awareness is my power seat. This is the one thing that I know who I actually am or conceive myself to be. That identity is my power seat. And that's the only identity where I do not care what other people tell me I am. No matter what happens in my reality, I can always go back to that identity and put myself back into the power seat of awareness and then approach whatever is happening in my physical reality or in even my mental reality from the self-concept of awareness. It's almost like an anchor that I go back to whenever I am experiencing anything that I don't like, any piece of contrast. And even sometimes when I'm experiencing good things or favorable things. It's actually a little bit challenging to sometimes put into words, but the best way I can explain it is that that's the identity where like I said, I don't care what other people think. I don't care what reality is showing me. It's not dependent on anything other than my own awareness. And I very much associate my awareness through my own eyesight. So like, for example, I'm like aware of this plant. I'm aware of this camera right now. I'm aware of this cabinet next to me. Even though I very much associate my own awareness through my own eyesight, I know that even that is limited. And for the record, you can actually associate your own awareness through however you're perceiving the world. So, for example, if you are blind or you can't see well, you can also associate your awareness through touch. You could associate through smell, taste, all of our senses, right? But getting back to the point of the video, being able to identify myself as just simple awareness, like I said, is my power seat. So having it as a separate category from all of the other identities that I can select and pick from in external reality, or in my internal reality as well, always keeps me in the seat of power. And like I said, it's like an anchor. It's kind of like a security system that I can always go back to in order to maneuver and pick the realities that I want to experience. Once I'm back in my own seat of awareness, that's when I can go forward and pick the reputation or the identity or self-concept that I want to express in physical reality. Like I said, for me, separating the two is extremely helpful, mostly just because one, I know to actually be my truth. The others are more like, who do I want to express myself as in physical reality? So there's like an air of detachment that comes from reputation, and it's something that I can pick, something that I can select. Another reason why I like to separate these two as well is because it also helps me become more aware of the fact that I'm not anything outside of myself. I'm not anything outside of my own awareness. And so I don't have to put as much worry or credibility, we could say, onto anything other than my own awareness. So it's almost like I don't take the reputation as seriously as I take my own levels of self-awareness. So in a way, it provides this level of detachment towards the way I want to express myself in physical reality. Like, it's less serious because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. It's more of a game rather than what I perceive as my own being or my own truth, we could say. And I found that the more detached you approach things, the easier and more smoothly they go. So by not taking my own reputation as seriously as my levels of self-awareness and my identity with my own self-awareness, it puts less pressure on that identity change. And it just makes it easier to persist in that identity without any resistance. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about the second category as well, which is reputation. The reason why I personally approach all of the other self-concepts from a reputation perspective is because it helps me more effortlessly select, we could say, or change my self-concept when I realize the self-concept that I want to be or the self-concept I want to express here in physical reality. It's almost like selecting your self-concept through the eyes of other people. Now, you do want to be careful with this approach when it comes to self-concept change of seeing your own identity through the eyes of other people, because you don't want to necessarily be dependent on your external reality to show you who you are, which can cause attachment or need from someone or something external from you to prove to you who you are. But when you approach self-concept in this way and when you realize who you want to be, I found that it makes the process go a lot more smooth when it comes to identity change. We're always shifting in and out of different identities as we are experiencing reality or our everyday lives. Depending on who you are or who you perceive yourself to be, for example, let's say that you are a wife, right, or a husband. You may start off the day with your wife or husband and perceive yourself as that, even if you're not fully aware of it. In that moment, you are behaving as a husband, right? But then maybe you go to work and then you identify as a contractor or whatever you do for work, right? Your self-concept in these situations or in everyday life is always shifting to a different identity as you experience the world or as you do things in physical reality. And so what you can start to do is start to ask yourself the question, what do I want to be known for? And who do I want people to see me as? You could even go as far as to, ask yourself, what do I want people to talk about when they're at my funeral? Which is a little bit morbid. I actually don't really like to play that kind of question game because that's not my end goal, is to die and have people talk about me. But you can go that route. I've seen a lot of people take that approach. For me, reputation is very much anchored in this idea of who I get to express myself as in any given moment. So like, for example, let's say that you want to be a more patient person, right? It's in the situations or the levels of contrast that you're going to be experiencing and practicing being a patient person, when you have to wait in a long line or when you have to actually be patient. And so when you see self-concept through the eyes of reputation, it better helps you embrace contrast, because you realize that you get to actually show the world the person you want to be in this darkness of contrast. If you're someone who, wants to change their self-concept around money, if you approach this new self-concept change like, I am a wealthy person, I do what wealthy people do, or I think like wealthy people think, or associate yourself as a wealthy person, if you start approaching it from more of a reputation stake, it actually helps you activate your imagination in a more enjoyable way. You can start picturing yourself as like this wealthy person who, people see as a wealthy person. Like I said, this isn't like the only way to change your self-concept, but for me, seeing myself through the eyes of other people and through the reputation that I want to be known for, no matter what's happening in physical reality, is a lot more empowering than just trying to make myself believe something that I'm not fully on board with yet. And I personally don't make myself do anything that I don't want to do. That is a rule I have, because for me, that's an obligation trap. And I don't actually think that manifesting is all about doing something in order to get something. I believe that it's more about becoming more self-aware and basically just directing your attention away from things that you find unfavorable to what you find favorable. But that's a whole other video, which I'm going to eventually create. But the point I want to make in this video is, if you're struggling with changing your identity about a certain subject in life, try approaching it differently. First of all, find a way to have an anchor back to your power seat, which is just awareness, your observation of things, rather than your emotional reaction to things. I would recommend becoming more aware of the fact that you are just awareness, which sounds kind of boring and bland, but it's extremely powerful when you can find your place back to that seat. From that power seat of I am awareness and I am just picking what I want to experience in reality, that's when you can start approaching more physical expressions of who you desire to be, what you prefer to be, what is most favorable to you. And like I said, for me, finding my own identity through my own reputation has been the most empowering way to go about it, mostly because sometimes when it comes to identity change, it can be a little bit tricky, we could say, to fully be on board and convince yourself of something that you haven't even really experienced before, especially if you're going from like, let's say you have like $0 in the bank account and you want to be like a trillionaire, right? Trying to convince yourself that you are a trillionaire when you aren't actually a trillionaire is challenging. And even if you were to go about reality through certain actions, like, okay, I'm a trillionaire, and you do like one thing every day that makes you associate being a trillionaire with that action. Even if you were to go about it that way, sometimes, especially depending on the certain levels of contrast that you experience, it's not always the easiest to get through those levels of contrast. But if you approach wanting to be a trillionaire from the level of, I want this to be part of my reputation, it makes going across the bridge just a lot easier, because you're self-secure in your desire of reputation rather than this external thing that needs to happen in physical reality. All right. So definitely try this out if it resonates for you, and let me know what you think about the video in the comments below. As always, I love hearing everyone's different perspectives, but I'm going to end the video here. As always, keep creating, everyone, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.